Now can you see the screen?
It's coming. Yes, good.
Okay. Good. So today I would like to talk about the big data analysis in tourism and hospitality field, and it's more about, it's not a very, we say, formal presentation. It's more about sharing. So sharing my experience when I did this research, did a pieces of research, and also I would like to get some interactions with you. So let's see how we can go further using the big data in our field. And I think based on my experience in the UK and also in Hong Kong, I'm not sure if this is happening or will happen in Korea. We talk more about the research impact. It's not the academic impact, it's non-academic impact. So I would like also to share more about the policy implications of the research. And I think this is, as a researcher, this is our responsibility to do more impactful research, not only by publication. So this is, I think this is why I want to share this kind of idea with the PhD, current PhD students, because you are the future of this field. So no further ado. Okay, this is the agenda I would like to share today. So the first part, I would like to share a bit about the understanding of big data. Again, this is not the definition from textbooks, it's my understanding. So we can do some interaction. I hope we can do some interactions. You can also share your understanding of big data. And then I would like to share some research from myself, my side. So covering different aspects of by using the big data. So including demand modeling and also the, we say like satisfaction, emotion, which is the sentiment analysis. And also this is the profile of the tourists. And also when we use big data, then we have some value creation. Okay, the first question is, what is big data? So the name is big data, so it must be big in terms of sample size. Then how big we can say this is big data? In the reality, when you expect how big it is, the big data is much bigger than your expectation. Another dimension for big data is that it must be high frequency. Again, how high the frequency is, we can recognize this as big data. No matter how high you expect, you guess, the real frequency of big data is higher than your expectation. So in our field, when we do big data, we say we can use, in theory, yes, we can, because now we have the online data, online review data, for example, UGC data, then in theory, we can get data maybe by hour or even by minute. But in the reality, when we do research, when we run models, usually we only use the daily data. I think this is the most high frequency data we use in our field. But this is only in our field. If we talk about finance, when they do the stock market, the data frequency is 1/4 by second. So 1 second, you can get 4 data points already. Then imagine that how many seconds we have today, 1 day, and how many seconds we have for 1 week or 1 month. So you can see how high the frequency is in other field. Because we have such a large sample size, because we have such a high frequency, then the traditional, we say, econometric methods may not work. They can do the models. But for example, if we have more than 1 million observations, we use the traditional regression. And then how are we going to assess the model if the coefficient is significant or not? Usually we use the p-value. And in the marketing research, p-value, the cutoff point is 0.05. But in economics, 0.1 is fine. But we all know that for p-value, as the increase of your sample size, p-value will become much easier to be significant. So in econometric models, usually the observation could be like a few hundreds. It's already a very good model. But in our big data, our unit is million. Then you can imagine how easy it will be to get a very significant results. But is that result reasonable? This is what we are going to think about it. We all know that for for the data, when we have enough data, it's very easy to rubbish in, rubbish out. So the rationale behind the model, the research question is what we need to think more when we use big data. That's why when we have big data, usually we have some special algorithm. For example, we can use many AI methods to run the model, not the traditional ones. That because we have a large sample size, we have a high frequency, then we have to use some new interventional methods. Okay, this is my understanding of big data.
Okay.
Then for any data, they do have advantages and disadvantages. So big data is not it's a new type of data, or although it has emerged for maybe around already 20 years, I think, but it's still a new stuff to us. But it's not that difficult. So my understanding, big data is just a new dimension for us to look at this world. It gives us more information in the data. So this information is what we cannot get from the traditional economic or tourism data. So just a new dimension, and then because the new dimension, the new information, it gives us some new findings by using some new methods. So this is the big data. And because we talk about large sample size, high frequency, then big data has their disadvantages. For example, we have already talked about the p-value, rubbish in, rubbish out, and it's very easy to get the significant results. So sometimes people just do the data-driven research, which as a researcher, we need to do theory-driven, not data-driven. But it's okay when at the very beginning we use some data-driven methods to explore the relationships. And then when we get the relationship, the interested in relationship, we need to find theory behind the correlation to support what we find. It's not like we just get a result, significant, good, read paper, publish. No, it's not that way. We need to find the theory behind. That's how we can do an impactful research. Another thing I want to talk about here is the sample bias. When we collect data, the first-hand data, primary data, so we usually in the marketing research, we're using non-probability sampling, or we say convenience sampling. So it is easy to get the biased data if we don't control the quality when we collect the data. And when we have the biased data, so sometimes we may find some non-reasonable results because of the sampling bias. But for big data, because it's so big, so even our sample is biased, we may still get 1 or 2 million observations. And again, it can give you a very significant results. So literally, you don't know that your sample is already biased. So that's how can we prevent from this sampling bias? Again, theory driven. When we have the theory behind, we know our directions, so the sample cannot be biased. This is some disadvantages of big data when we use big data. So again, it does have the advantages, very charming, and it gives us new information, a new angle to look at this world, but they do have some disadvantages which we need to keep away in our research. Okay. Then, as I said, sometimes data-driven can work. This is a very famous example in big data. So if you travel abroad, maybe in the UK, in the Western world, you will find out that beer is usually allocated with diaper. I'm not sure if this happens in Korea, but in many Western countries, it is. This is
in Korea, we don't much baby these days anymore. So we have very small sample size to measure that correlation between diaper and beer.
I think maybe you can try to test diaper with soju.
Soju. You like soju?
好说吗
Okay. Oh,
Okay.
sorry.
So I think this is from Walmart. When they look at their own data, they find out that on the bill, beer appeared at the same time with diaper. This is a correlation data-driven from the big data. But people don't, by that time, people didn't know why. From our perceptions, they should be uncorrelated, but they do appear on the same bill for many times. Then people, now we see we are still using big data. Then how to explain the result? People went back to the traditional research methods. What they do is the observation. So they follow their guests, and then they realized daddies, when they were asked to go to the supermarket to buy diaper, they will by chance to get some beer for themselves. That's why beer and diaper come to the same bill. And practical implication, simply put the beer next to the diaper to make daddies happy, and then maybe they can buy more beer, or maybe they may come back to the supermarket more frequently because it's easy to get beer. So this is how the industry use big data, a very successful example. From data-driven, then remember, we need to go back to the traditional methods. So data-driven is not wrong. It will be very innovative. Then again, go back to the theory, go back to the traditional methods. This is why I want to share this story with you. Then think about it. How can we use big data to do our research? This is a circle, and this is what I was taught in my master degree, and I'm still using it. I think it's very useful for the PhD students. At the very beginning, we need to have our concern. So I use the word concern here. It's not a research question. It's our concern to the real life, to the industry. Then we translate this concern to the academic research question.
Yes, that's right.
As a PhD, you know how boring the PhD life is. So if, sorry about that, but we all experienced. So if the topic you chose for your PhD study, you are not interested, it's not your concern of the industry, the life, then your PhD will be even more boring. I think you need more soju. So from our concern translated into research question, and then as a PhD, as a researcher, our weapons are the theory. So we need to find theory to support our research questions. When we have the theory, then we try to get the models to match with the theory. When we have models, we need to think about what data we are going to use, big data, primary data, or even qualitative data. Data, then we do models. We use certain methods to estimate, to analyze the data, and then we will have our findings. Then it's tricky. Sometimes we will find a very unreasonable result. Then there are two possibilities. One is that maybe you can get a Nobel Prize. You do find something very innovative, very novel. This is the possibility for this stuff happen is very, very low, because if we can do that, we will not sit here. You will not listen to my lecture. So you will be already on the stage. So by high chance, if you find some unreasonable result, you need to go back step by step. Method wrong, data wrong, or model wrong, or theory is wrong. Then go back again to do the analysis, to do the journey again, until you find the findings which are consistent with our daily life, right? Then you use your findings to see if your findings can explain your research question, can solve your original concern. So
Mm.
it's a circle.
Mm.
Okay. And as a PhD, we must, since you haven't started your academic career, then we always, when we do research, let's always start from our original concern.
Okay, Anya, I have a
Yeah.
question. Concern.
Mm.
What is most your concern in current phenomenon?
In current phenomena, basically, for example, I'm in Hong Kong, and
worldwide.
Worldwide, I think in our industry as well, I think this is one concern. I always say one problem I want to solve in the industry is not about economics, labor shortage.
Shortage.
Labor shortage.
Labor shortage.
Yeah, this is happening in Europe, in Hong Kong, in our industry, because during the lockdown, our industry almost froze. So people left this industry. They may go to retails. They may apply for master degree. They may even just migrate to other countries. So in Hong Kong, compared to pre-COVID, we still have 30% staff less.
Okay.
Then maybe you know that in our school, we have a teaching hotel, which is called Hotel Icon, which is famous for the fantastic service. But now, even we had dinner in Hotel Icon in our own hotel, we serve wine by ourselves because we want to save the labor and they can serve other guests. So what I'm interested in, I'm doing is to try to develop the digital twin system to a hotel, which can help them to increase their productivity. A simple example is that we know that for the buffet restaurant, and sometimes the plate is gone because of the shortage of labor. So staff there cannot see. And then if we have the digital twin system, then by that time, there will be signals sent back to the kitchen and the staff to remind them that this certain place need to be refilled. Even for the dining restaurant, we can also use the system, and then we don't need the staff to walk around. We can just by a certain time remind the kitchen, this certain table need their main course. Even we can optimize the order they cook dishes.
Okay, in terms of labor shortage, people concerned about a lot the robotics and then AI. AI with the robotics will replace their labor job opportunity. But you mentioned the labor shortage for the specific task area. So what do you think about we can replace the place by robotics with AI, then the concern will be resolved. What do you think?
I think yeah, I know, I get your point, and it's always the hot topic in our field. And you know what happening in Alibaba? They have a hotel, no people at all. This is at the very beginning, no people at all. They use this hotel as a lab to test how much guests need a real people there. So at the very beginning, no people. And indeed, many robots that we are using in the hotel, the original code was generated there. So no people. Then either in the canteen. And then they realize that, oh, we need the staff in the canteen to serve guests. Unless it will be like a buffet and it will lower down the service quality and the guest experience. Another thing is that at the very beginning, how the guests open the door, screen the face, and then people don't feel safe. So now they have the key, and also now they have in the hotel. Now they only have 2.5 staff. Why 0.5? Because the 0.5 is an accountant. And sometimes when guests come into the lobby, they don't know how to do the auto check-in. So this this accountant needs to go out from the back office to do the help, assist the guest. So they use different functions to try in what degree people do need a staff.
Yes, right.
So this is a very interesting lab. And just to answer your question, I think that AI, robotics, and the staff, they should be facilitated to each other. It's not a replacement.
Right, right.
Particularly, I think for luxury hotels, we want to be welcomed by a smile, not a cool robot.
Right,
so,
right.
So I believe that, yes, we can, we always say in this way, AI and robotic are used to facilitate our service, to increase our productivity, but not kill us.
Yes, right.
Yeah, I hope answer your question.
Yes, good, good. Very good.
Okay, so we can go further.
Sure.
Yeah. So I talked more about how to do the research. Now let's see how to use the big data. So for big data, we only have 3 ways to collect big data: from machines, from people, from organizations. Machine is like we all have we say mobile phone, right? So there are a lot of data generated by the phone. And indeed, in the reality, we have more data. I always say we are overloaded by the data. The problem is that how to get the useful data, how to analyze the data. We do have data from people, social network, UGC data, and now people in our field, they started to use, you can call it SGC, supplier generated data, or HGC, host generated data. Because for Airbnb, I'm not sure if you have the experience to launch an Airbnb. In the host community, they do have the review to each guest. But seldomly we use the host generated data. Most data we use is the guest generated data. So now it's another dimension. And also organizations. Like in hotels, we have bunch of C's with the C's of the data, the operation data, and also, for example, the medical data, a lot of data there. But again, the access of data is a challenge. We'll cover this later. So people data. The traditional way, collect data face-to-face questionnaire. And now we can do the online data collection, which really increase the productivity and decrease the cost. Then we also have even free data, social media, UGC data. We can download the data or we can buy the data. Then these are the 4 famous, we say, social media platforms. And I did 2 cross here because they are not allowed us to use their data. Before this year, when I share this lecture, there is a cross at TripAdvisor as well. As you can see, we have many papers in our field using the TripAdvisor data, but the regulation for TripAdvisor is that we cannot use TripAdvisor data for any purpose by using no matter manually or auto machine to download data. So this is an ethical issue. What I want to share with you here is that now you are the PhD students. You just started your research. You need to keep the ethical issue always in mind. Now,
I have a very important question about people data. As you already know, the worldwide, we are fascinating the ChatGPT, the artificial intelligence. As chat is they generate the data just like a human like. Sometimes they generate the wrong data or not existing data, which we call that hallucinations. Anyway, they manipulate the wrong answer or manipulate the other way. Anyway, since ChatGPT, the algorithm can be able to generate data just like what people have done before. So probably the data can be more rubbishy, or can be more garbagey, or garbage means it's just like not genuine or not authentic data from directly from the people who have experience in that hotel.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Well, personally, I do think we just say in this month and last month, AI developed into another new generation. So, and it's too fast. And we do need to slow down before we, it's difficult. It's not easy. I think we need to have a clear regulation before we go to the next step.
Yes.
But I don't think it will happen, because the speed that the AI develop is much faster than the process we are taking.
Yes. Yes.
In terms of education, sometimes I love the students' innovative ideas. I did the teaching last week to ask students to run the simulation for revenue. And what one student did is that he inputted the room rate of his competitors into ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT to give him the optimal price. Then it only 7 or 6 numbers, ChatGPT gave him an answer, like $71 US. That's lowest price. So it makes sense. Low price, highest demand. Then he further inputted more parameters.
Yes.
And the answer from ChatGPT is, it's too difficult, I don't know. And ChatGPT gave him a code by Python, told him that you need to run this code and then get your optimal price.
Yeah.
So I like the students' innovation, but again, and we cannot tell if the essay was written by student or by ChatGPT. So, but again, this is only a tool. Like it depends on how we use it. If some scholars, they use the ChatGPT or the AI to generate fake data, well, it's like they just copy other people's work in the last, we say, 5 or 6 years ago. By that time, we cannot check again. So I believe that even though now maybe we may have some challenges, but we do later on, we will find ways to regulate it. So this is my understanding.
Good.
And
actually, just yesterday, I talked with my master degree students how ChatGPT different from other AI. So I visit Airbnb website, and then Airbnb, there are a lot of the online review from Spain, from China, from Japan, from America. They posting their online review in their mother tongues, and then Airbnb AI translate it to the users who wish to read it. So you leave your online review by your tongue language in Chinese. I cannot read it, so I translate it, providing by Airbnb, and I understand roughly. But I compare that Airbnb and Google Translator and Papago from Neighbor and ChatGPT. What the AI, what type of AI perfectly translate from mother tongue language to the consumers? I judge it, and ChatGPT is much more powerful for consumers to understand the original online review. And this is what we have now coping with this social media and peer-to-peer platform business.
Yeah, and what we are using now is only ChatGPT 3.5.
I'm using 4.0.
You use 4.0. Yeah, so it's more powerful.
Yes, very powerful. So will be this kind of people's data also will be manipulated by ChatGPT hugely. And you and I, the researchers, will have to find out what is genuine or original data from people or from AI manipulation data. That's the key of this current situation.
Yeah, my concern is the fake review. Now they will be more authentic.
No, yeah.
And the cost to generate the fake review will be just nothing.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, let's go back to the data here. So I would like to say that for the Twitter and TripAdvisor, now you can buy API to get the data in the ethical way. But it's not the full story. Maybe for some platforms on the website, they didn't say that we are not allowed to use. That means we can use. But for certain platforms, they clearly say that we cannot use, then we just don't use. This is an ethical issue. Then organization data. So the most frequently used organization data, I think, is STR data. Maybe most of you have already used. And again, we can say, if you worked in a hotel, you had the experience working in a hotel, then you know that the system, there are a lot of data behind there. And then the challenge is how to access that data. Then it's the collaboration with the industry. By the support from the industry, you can have the data, and also using that data, you can generate more impactful research. So collaboration is a lesson that you need to learn during your PhD journey. I remember that by that time when I did my PhD, I thought that research is just what I need to do. Publish paper, finish my thesis, that's my PhD. But later on, when I started to work, I realized that without the support from the industry, it's always say, if you have the support from the industry, it will make your life much easier in research, in teaching. And we need to learn how to communicate with people, including researchers, including industry people, including government officers. So that's why we can, that's how we can generate impactful studies. It's not research. Yes, we need to, sometimes we say the researchers are all independent, but we do need some support from others and do the co-authorship, which can also make our life much easier. And try to get good relationship with your supervisor. They can share not only how to do research, but more experience with you. By Soju, maybe.
That's right.
Then machine, GPS, temperature. In the old days, when I did my PhD, if we want to use GPS data, how can we do that? For example, we want to test we want to track people's footprints when they visit Hong Kong Disneyland. So when they come into the entrance, we give them a GPS tracker, put them in the bag. And then when they leave, we get this GPS back to track their footprints. But now it's much easier. We have the phone, right? Also temperature. In the old days, it's unbelievable that we check the temperature. It's not accessible. But now if you go to the website of NASA, temperature data is there, air pollution data is there, even traffic data. They do have the data sets that they use the satellite to camera the volume of traffic, which can be used as an economic activity indicator. Because we know that this is the project I'm doing with Asian Development Bank. We are going to use the night light data as the indicator for economic recovery in Thailand before, during, and post-COVID. So our assumption is that during COVID, less economic activity. But what we realize is that the nightlight data in 2020 was much stronger than 2019. So this is an unbelievable finding, as I just mentioned. Then do you know the reason behind?
No.
Because lockdown, people stay at home longer. So usually at night they will go to bars, restaurants, but now by that time they have to stay at home. So more light. In that sense, the nightlight data is not workable in our case. So that's why we search for the traffic volume data. And you can see now this is what I'm saying, big data, a new dimension for us to look at the world, right?
Okay.
So this is machine data. And then this is just a summary of the data. So we have this is the data from people, most UGC data, and from machine device data, and from transaction or operation data. This is a review paper published in 2018 in our field to summarize the application of big data. And you can see by that time, almost 0.5% was generated by UGC data, followed by device and transaction. So I think this is more about the data access. So this UGC data, always say people, the data from people are the easiest one we can get, followed by the device data. For example, if you want to use the app data, you need to buy or either collaborate with the developer or buy the data. Transaction data is the most difficult one to access. Even you have the collaboration with hotels, usually they will not give you their real business data, always say the real-time business data. So like we do have the collaboration with Hotel Icon. We own the hotel, right? So even though when we do the research, they will not share us the latest data. They can give them, because that data is we say all the competitors, they are very interested in that data.
I see.
So we can, for example, now maybe we can only get data by 2021, maybe.
2021.
Yeah, even 2022 data they will not give us. But the data they give us is very informative. We can have their account data, accounting data, operation data, even the cost of the kitchen. So very informative. We say, as we said, the data is overloaded. So it just depends on how you would like to use the data. And this is interesting. You can see this is the sample size by that time, by 2017, in our field, when people use big data, always say they call it big data. Then it's interesting. You can see big data, the sample size, only maybe 1,000. By that time, I don't say that these papers are bad ones, but you can see how fast the growth. This is the development of big data application in our field. And later on, when I share my research, you can see usually the number of observation is million. Now we can see now the largest is 400,000 by that time, but now it's more than 1 million. So you can see how fast this area developed. Then how to use big data? Again, big data is nothing. It's just a new dimension, new type of data. So if you see the step-by-step, it's just what we need to do using the traditional data. The first step, I would say, challenge we always have is how to acquire, how to get the data. And then when we have the data, we need to do data clean. It's the preparation. Then analyze data, report your results, and then decide the practical, theoretical implication. So all the same, right? But just for big data, it's a new type of data. So when we acquire the data, maybe we need to introduce some new methods. And again, what I want to highlight here is value comes from the integration of multiple sources and types of data. So you can see now in our field, the top journals, if you only do like a data mining or sentiment analysis is not easy to get published.
Mm.
I think now the trend, I would say the format is that you need to combine, integrate multiple sources.
Mm.
In the business field, marketing field, if you look at read the journals in the it's called UT Dallas list. The most popular format now is that a big data study, a SCM study, and an on-site experiment in one paper. So this is very in one paper. For us, it's
Damn difficult.
Yeah, in our field, for this, that 3 studies, we can do a PhD. But I believe this will be the trend in our field because we always follow them. So now we can start to prepare. Maybe we don't need to do three completely different studies in one paper, but at least we can integrate different data sources. I will introduce this method using my own research later.
Okay.
And then, so when we collect the big data is not the traditional data because all traditional data are systematic data. Basically, that means the data are number. So when we have numbers, then we can do everything. But for big data, sometimes it's the unsystematic data. For example, maybe you have already done some data mining, text mining. So the data text mining, the data is text. This year, my colleague published one paper in Annals. He used picture data. He used AI. It's a study related to Airbnb. He want to test if this is a good-looking host. If this is good-looking host, the performance of the listing will be better or not. So basically, he trained the AI to identify this is called beautiful, handsome, this is called ugly, and then compare the performance. So now you can see in our field, we have text data. It's already the last generation, we say, old days. Now we are using picture and later on maybe video. And as the fast development of AI, this is all workable. Not very costly, okay? So for the unsystematic data, if we are allowed, then we need to use API to collect data. But for some data, as I said, that if the website doesn't say that we are not allowed to do, then we can use, we can maybe write up the code by ourselves to scrape the data. So this is called a spider. But do it ethically, okay? When we have data, then we need to prepare, particularly for the unsystematic data. What we downloaded, we get is the text, videos, pictures. We are not good at to analyze the textual data. Even you say that I'm a qualitative researcher, I can do I can analyze the qualitative data, the text data, but think about it's not 30 or 40 interview data. It's millions of review comments. So manually, it doesn't work. So what we do is that we need to translate the textual data to numbers. Then it's our word. We can play with it. So how to translate the textual data to number? We need to use the natural language processing. So basically what we can do for the text data, we can see how frequency these certain words showed up always together. This is called co-occurrency. Okay, so then we can have the correlation between the certain words. We can also do sentiment. Basically, we will have a dictionary, and then we train the AI to teach the AI that, for example, apple, when it comes up with pear, it means a fruit. But when it comes with computer, with mouse, then probably it's the brand of an IT company. So this is how we train the AI. Using this way, we can give certain words a value. For example, happiness. We can tell the AI, happiness is a positive word. So we value it as 1. Sadness is a negative word. We can value it as -1. Then you can see you have the numbers. And in one sentence, aggregate the numbers of each word. Maybe then the total score for this sentence, maybe it's 5 or it's -4. This is called sentiment analysis. When we have numbers, we can input this number into regressions. This is the integration of multi-source data. We used big data, but not only big data. Again, similar to the diaper and the beer case. From big data, then go back to the traditional ways. This is our field. We can play as what we want. Okay, so this is how to use the big data, particularly for the unstructured, unsystematic data. For example, here, this is what I just talked about. So this is a study that they summarized the service failure of Airbnb. There is a website that is a community. People complain Airbnb there. It's a forum, so you can download data there. And then these 2 scholars, they summarized the most popular words: customer service, Airbnb host, credit cards, Airbnb website, Airbnb account, etc. So then they see the co-occurrence of each word. They can also do sentiment to see the reaction, emotional reaction of people when they had the service failure. So their angle is very interesting. We know Airbnb was launched in 2008. Now it's almost 15 years. And we know that it's different from the traditional accommodations. And the different thing is that in Airbnb, when you stay in Airbnb, when you suffered the service failure, the failure was usually generated by the host. But the compensation, recovery were launched by the platform. So it's different from the experience in the hotel. If there is a service failure in the hotel, the hotel will do the recovery, will compliment you. But in Airbnb, it's the party who do the service recovery is not the host, it's not the one who made the mistake. So in this case, in this way, the cost for the host to make mistake is relatively low than the traditional hotels. So this is their angle. They find this interesting angle, then they deep in to do this research. So again, start from the original concern. And then they can even do network analysis. Network analysis basically is the correlation. So they group different words by colors. And indeed, this network analysis now is very workable. We can download some software from the website for free, input all the words, and then click, then you can get your results. So you even don't need to know how to write a code. So it's very workable, but theory-driven, no rubbish in, rubbish out. And then because now the cost is nothing, that's why I think this is also one reason that for such research, you can see this paper was published in 2021, only 2 years. But now if you only do a network analysis, you cannot publish in the top tier journal. This is how to prepare, or say how to transform the unsystematic data to the systematic data. When we have all the data in numbers, then we can do our analysis. And then you can see what are the analysis are. Classification, clustering, regression, association, or say correlation, graph. All the methods we use in using the traditional methods. So again, big data is nothing new. We need to know what we are going to get, what we want from the data, then go back to the traditional ways. Okay. This is just to show you that how we use the traditional method with big data. And we have already discussed this part. Big data give us the stronger statistical power, more significant p-values. But again, think about the theory. Okay, so this is the sharing of the big data part. Any questions so far?
Students, if you have a question, feel free to ask him. Okay.
Okay, then I'll share some big data application examples. So these 5 bullet points were summarized by these 2 scholars in 2021. And we can see demand forecasting, and the second one basically is the consumer behavior. The third one we can rename as the profile. We use big data to profile the tourists. The fourth is knowledge and value creation. So basically is based on data what we can have something new. And the fifth for sure is when we have big data, because it's a new type of data, so we do have some methodological contributions, but I will not cover this piece here, because today I would like to talk more about the practical the policy implications, the impact. So we start from the tourism demand forecasting, and relaxed. We don't have any equations today, so we will not go to the technological part. We only show you why I do this research, what is the finding, what is the policy implications. So you know that in 2019, there is the social unrest in Hong Kong, and social unrest is a crisis. But this crisis is different from COVID because the border is still open. Some people cancel their trip, some people not. And the crisis only lasted for a few months. So if we use the traditional data, traditional way, monthly data, after we do the model, the crisis is finished. So what we want to help the industry is that during the crisis, how they do their prediction on the room sales. So in this case, we use the daily data. And you can see this is the occupancy rate in 2019 for the luxury hotel in Hong Kong, upscale, mid-scale. We do have a budget, but the budget hotel I didn't include the budget hotel in this slides. And this is the Twitter counts in terms of the keywords for the social unrest. So we aggregate them on the daily level, but these graphs are the monthly level. But indeed, when we do the model, we use the daily data. So you can see the occupancy rate decreased till August and recover a bit, all in August. Literally, the crisis only lasted for 2 months. If we use monthly data, it doesn't work at all. Okay, and you can see pre-crisis. On average, the occupancy rate of Hong Kong is 80% across the year. Even now, Hotel Icon is fully occupied or everything. So before, if no crisis, Hong Kong, you can see the occupancy rate 90%, very high, very competitive. So we do want to help the industry to show them how to do the prediction during the crisis. So this is background, the concern. Then we get the STR occupancy data, daily data from STR. We bought the API from Twitter using the full 2019 as the study period. So 365 observations of occupancy. Then we used more than 1 million Twitter data observations. We aggregate them to 214 daily data. And then basically it's just a time series prediction model. And we put one more new variable, which is the Twitter counts. Then let's see the results. So I will not introduce the forecasting models in details, but what you can see is that the dotted lines are the forecasting models without Twitter variable. The solid lines represent the models. You can see it's the same model, but we just add one more Twitter variable, give the model more information. And these two graphs, this is the 1 step ahead forecasting, 2 step ahead forecasting, until 14 steps ahead. We have 8 models here. So this is the rank of this 8 model across different forecasting periods. And the trend is very clear. So the green and blue solid lines, blue and green, all are the models using with the intervention variable, with the Twitter variable. And this is MAPE is a forecasting error, which is the relative, basically is like 10% forecasting error. So this is MAPE, a relative number. RMSE is an absolute number. It's like your forecasting error, maybe because we forecasted the occupancy. So for RMSE, maybe your forecasting error is 20%. So it's the real difference between the real and the forecasted numbers, absolute number. So both relative and absolute numbers show that when we have new variable, when we have the big data, social media included in the model, the performance becomes much better. So this is for the luxury class. Then if we see the upper scale, even better. And if we see the mid-scale class, a little bit mixed here, but we can still say that models with the Twitter variable performed better. More interestingly, it's not the implication here is not only about forecasting. When we have big data, when we have AI, the revenue, people how to do revenue management, the way people how to do revenue management completely changed. I believe in the textbook, when we learn revenue management, 4 R's, right time, right place, right price to the right people. Now, when we have AI, when we have social media, big data, how to do revenue management, right time, right place, the same. Right people, not right price, right people, then I give you the right price. What is the right price? Is the maximal money you can pay. So you can see if in this way, if you can identify the right people, your revenue will be much higher than the traditional way. So this is what AI gives us. If we say now we are on Zoom and I can see your face one by one, but if I'm an AI, what I can see is that on average, there are 2,000 labels on your face. What are the labels? Maybe now you are a student, but later on after lecture, you walk into a coffee shop, then you are a consumer. Or sometimes when you go back home, you are the daughter, you are the son. So different labels. Now, again, this is from Alibaba, because you know that it's very famous in China to do the online shopping. So back to the Alibaba is a community. So they give you a lot of labels, not labels. They give you a lot of what's the word? Labels. Then what I'm saying here is that because we use the Twitter data to do the prediction. So if as a hotel people, if we look at who are the people post the Twitter during this period, they are the ones who concern this crisis. Then either if I can do the marketing specifically to this group of people. For sure, not to the Hong Kong local people because they will not stay in hotels. I mean, the foreign visitors. Then it can reduce my marketing cost. And on the other way, increase my revenue. So this is how they can identify the people. Again, as just said, right time, right place, right people, then you can charge them whatever you want. So this is totally a new world because of AI. And again, by using AI, we don't terminate the revenue managers. We use AI as a tool to facilitate their job. Okay, so this is one more implication. So in general, we can see that during crisis, if we can have big data, it can increase the forecasting performance. This is very, it makes sense because for daily data, when we have new information input into the model, then the results can be better. But after crisis, when the market has already recovered to the pre-crisis level, when we input big data into the model, then it may give more noise than the useful information into the model. So in that case, after the crisis, when we use big data to do the forecasting, sometimes the performance is not as good as the traditional ones. So different time period, we need to select different models. And I think now in Hong Kong, because we just opened the border, so the market hasn't recovered to the pre-COVID level. Now is the time we can use the big data to generate the forecast. But after that, we will go back to the traditional models. Okay, this is the first study. And the second one, we all experience lockdown. So when I was in my lockdown, what I want to do is travel. So look around my room and all in my mind is the travel, is the nature. Then I'm thinking that during lockdown, what is the travel sentiment? And we know that the emotion can spill over. Then how about we consider the spatial effect in the model? So original concern from myself, then we do this research. And the data, we got the Sina Weibo. Sina Weibo is the Chinese version of Twitter. So we got the data there. And also, because it's during COVID, so we need to consider the COVID cases. And also we have some other economic variables from the statistical yearbook. So the period January 1st to March 23rd, 2020 is the first wave in mainland China. So we cover the full first wave for lockdown. And then we also collected 150,000 waiver posts because we want to do the spillover effect. So, and in tourism, so we need to filter down the waiver post. We know how many pieces of posts in Twitter, even similar in Weibo, but we need to filter down only the posts. There is the graphical information that's useful to us, and they should be related to tourism, or we say in the tourism channel. That's why although 3 months, the total number is not that much. Then we do the sentiment analysis for each piece of Weibo. Then we aggregate them by province level. In this way, we have the sentiment, we have the tourist sentiment of each province in China. We use this sentiment as the dependent variable. And we use the number of cases, GDP, even weather, as independent variable. We know that our mood will be influenced by the weather. So we include this PM 2.5 as a control variable. So what happened? Let's see the result. So how to explain this result? This is the spatial spillover of the travel sentiment. And we can see the darker color is negative. The light color represents positive number. Then, for example, this province, how to explain the number here is the more, I would say, the higher sentiment the neighboring province have, the less travel sentiment residents in this province have. Less sentiment, right? Because it's a negative number, so it's less. And let's see here. We know the COVID was identified in Hubei province in China. So you can see it's very light, very high number. That means people around this province, if they have stronger sentiment, travel sentiment, if their travel intention is higher, residents in Hubei province, their sentiment, their intention is even higher. What's the reason behind? We know Hubei has the most cases. So it's like people around this province, if people around this province, they want to travel, residents in Hubei province, they want to travel more because their hometown is not safe. Most cases in this province. But how about this one? We can see this is Qinghai province, and you may know Tibet, you may know Xinjiang, very far away, less cases. So if people around my hometown, they want to travel, they are riskier than me. So I just want to simply stay at home to be safe. Again, similarly, if we talk about the spillover effect of number of cases, and you can see it's basically the same pattern for the provinces in the West. More cases around me, I just want to stay. But for this part, more cases around me, I want to escape. So this captures the spillover effect of emotion and also the cases. Then what's the implication? Because the spillover effect are different across provinces. So by that time, I think we did this paper in 2021, and our practical implication is that when we are in the recovery stage, we need to have customized the policy to recover. And also because we have some economic variables in the model, and then we also suggested that for example, vouchers and promotion offers will be useful, effective when we are in the recovery. And this is what we are doing. For example, Hong Kong, they distribute, I think 50,000 air flight tickets to Hong Kong to guests, to tourists to fly to Hong Kong for free. But this paper is only a working paper. So sentiment is, I think that sentiment in our field is still in the developing stage. We submitted this paper to tourism management to JTR. Both rejected. The challenge is from the sentiment. We know sentiment is very useful, but sentiment by nature is an indicator that you cannot validate it. We use different AI methods, we can get different sentiments, even they are based on the same data set. So that's why reviewer challenges us. We cannot validate if our estimation of the sentiment is accurate or not. But this is common, no one can validate at all. So this is a challenge that we use sentiment in our research at this moment. Tremo, do you have any suggestions?
No.
So when I get my review comments, my thought is that if you can, you do it, okay? No one can solve this challenge, but we always be challenged. So this is just some sharing about the sentiment. Maybe we hope that ChatGPT can help us.
However, the sentiment analysis is how to the classification the dimension. You know, we collecting data, and then we measure that sentiment as one dimension and then naming it a certain naming. So that process is full subjective measurement. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and in the old days when we do this manually, it's very subjective. Now it's not subjective, but we have different AI algorithm to estimate sentiment. Then it's subjective again, which method you will select.
Okay.
And then the problem is that same data set, different methods, you may have different sentiments. Then which one is real? We cannot validate it. So that's a challenge. And the review is right, but it's just no one can solve this challenge at the moment. But sentiment is very informative, very useful. So that's the challenge. Okay, now the third one, the third paper. Because I stayed in the UK for 4 years, and before COVID, we know how cloudy London is. And we know that in London, this is a map of London, if you have been to there before. And the circle, the size of circle represents the number of visitors to each attractions. You can see British Museum, National Portrait Gallery, Tate Modern are all the famous attractions for London. Very many number of tourists. Then if you look at London Zoo, Kew Garden, or even you can see the Chiswick House. The visitor flow among attractions are not balanced. That's okay, that's nature. But as a destination, I would say from the OTA perspective, how to redirect visitors from the popular ones to the non-popular ones. This is what we want to help. We know that for example, from British Museum, number of people from British Museum to British Library will be different from British Library back to British Museum. But by that time, when we do this kind of spatial model, we don't consider this. The assumption is very strong in previous spatial econometric models. By that time, the assumption behind is that number of people from British Library to British Museum is as same as number of people from British Museum back to the library. That's not real. It's far away from the reality. So this is one of the technological contribution of this paper. So we use the Flickr data. Flickr is a website that people can upload their photos when they travel. And then there are the geographical information, they have the time. So by using the time and geographical information, we can aggregate all the Flickr data. Then we can get the footprint of people, each single individual tourist. Then if we further aggregate all the individual tourists as a whole, we can get the probability matrix between different attractions, right? Then we can say that, for example, the probability for tourists transit from attraction A to B could be different from B to A. Big data, new dimension to look at the world, give us something novel. This is what people don't have before they use the big data. So we collect the number of visitors to 19 attractions in London, covering 2007 to 2017. And we collect data from 127,000 users. Each user, they may have 30 or 50 pictures per day. Then you can imagine the sample size observations for the big data. Again, we use the Flickr data to estimate the probability transition matrix only. Again, integrate big data with traditional methods. The traditional method is just a tourism demand model, visitor flow from the statistics as a dependent variable, and then we use GDP as the income indicator, Google search as the popularity word of mouth of our attractions, distance to the central London, which is like the cost on time, and price, cost. Income, cost are the determinants of demand. So very classical demand model. And we use the transition probability matrix as the weight when we regress the model. So this is how we do the spatial spillover effect. By using the transition matrix, what we can have is here, backward, forward. The larger the backward is, it means more people travel from this attraction to other attractions. Forward means more people travel to this attraction from others. So if we have attractions like these three, both backward and forward are larger, which means in London, they are the attraction hubs. Basically, people come and go from there. What's the implication? The implication is that we know in big cities, they have the travel bus. So if London would like to improve the route design of their travel bus, they can consider these three as the starting point. And for example, British Library, more people travel from British Library to other place. So in that way, this should be the first few stops, not the last. And so as this part, for example, maybe Tate Modern, usually people take Tate Modern as the last destination in a day trip. So this can help them to improve the route of their travel bus. Then we look at the spillover. It makes sense. Popular ones have more spillover effect. Basically, it means neighboring attractions can generate more visitor flows to British Museum, to National Portrait Gallery, and to, for example, London Zoo. Then this is interesting. These two attractions, basically, they are in the opposite of a street. And then we can see V&A has much stronger spillover effect than the History Museum. So what shall we do? Using AI. How can we redirect people from V&A to the History Museum? The easiest way is that collaborate with Google. We know that when you travel, the most frequent function you use is map. So think about it. If people are traveling in V&A, and then you got a notice from Google Map that the History Museum, now they have, for example, they have the free ice cream. Then I believe people will go across the road to visit History Museum. Why not do price package? Because all museums in London are free, unfortunately, so we cannot do package. But we can use this way to try to attract people, redirect people footprints. So based on what? Based on our findings. We told them the spillover of attractions. Then based on this spillover effects, they can design the promotion packages heavily or lightly. For example, if the spillover effect is very small, then they need to promote heavily. But if the spillover effect is already very strong, maybe just give a little bit tip, they will come, right? So in addition to this spillover effect, we also estimate how strong the spillover between each attractions. So again, based on these numbers, they can design their promotion packages. So this is what we find and what we want to contribute to the industry. They can use our findings to redesign the bus route. They can also use our findings to design their promotion packages. So this is called research impact. It's not about citation, it's the non-academic impact to the society. I know you are Ted. I think I have two more studies.
So
this
let me ask the previous one about London.
Yeah.
So you are collecting data using of Google Map?
No, I collect data using the Flickr.
Frequent.
Yeah, Flickr.
Flickr data still valuable? I mean,
by that time it was okay, but we realized that the number of users decreased.
Right.
So it decreased a lot. But again, thanks for big data, although the number of users decreased, we still have more than enough data.
Okay.
And the pattern, the trend will not change. Right?
Okay. So anyway, you're finding out the pattern, how the bus, the travel bus is driving from where to where.
Yeah, and design the stops. Which attraction should be the first stop? Which should be the last?
Okay, that's good.
And this is again is about Airbnb, and it's relatively old, 2019 paper. By that time, we just want to look at if I was a host, how can I sell my rooms, my listings? Because we know that how many Airbnb listings in London, in Paris, so it's very competitive. Then how can I sell my rooms more? Or we say which features, what is the most popular, attractive item in my property to the guests? So this is our question. And inside Airbnb is a data set for Airbnb, which maybe you are very familiar with. And we chose London as the field for the study because London is the second last, is the second largest market for Airbnb. And we chose March the 5th to April the 8th, 2018. Why this particular period? Because there is no public holiday in this period. After this is Easter. So when we have holiday, the demand will increase. So we just want to check one regular period and 1.23 million observations. So basically, the dependent variable is if the listing is booked or not on a certain day. And then we do have, again, you can see it is just a demand model, price, and number of reviews, which is the word of mouth. Location, again, is the cost. Spillover effect of the neighboring properties, which is the competitiveness, and also other attributes of the property. For example, if you have Wi-Fi or not, if you have kitchen or not, etc. So I just pick up some interesting findings. How to explain the results? We just look at the last column. For example, bathroom per capita. If your bathroom per capita increased 1 unit, the probability that your property will be booked will increase by 21%. So this is how to explain the results. Again, if the bathroom per capita increased by 1 unit, then the probability that your listing will be booked will increase by 21%. That makes sense. People would like to have more privacy when we stay in Airbnb. Internet. If you have internet, compare with the ones without internet, the booking probability will increase by 35%. So internet, very important to our Asian tourists, we all know, right? Kitchen. Why we stay in Airbnb? We want to be authentic. We want to experience the local life. Then kitchen is necessary. And
excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Professor. What does it mean by dummy?
Dummy is if you have internet, then I give you 1. You value as 1.
Ah, okay, I see.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then this one is interesting.
Good question.
If your property is the entire property I can occupy, then the booking probability will tripled, 290%. It's a very attractive number. Basically, it means all the hosts should change their properties into entire property. Then the problem is Airbnb. Airbnb is called sharing. So if all the properties are entire property, what's the difference between Airbnb and B&B? So this is finding from the tourists, from the guests. But this is the problem that the question we revert back to Airbnb. How would you like to develop yourself as B&Bs with a platform that we can book online, or you still keep your nature as to be loyal to your sharing culture? So this is, I think this is the most interesting finding here.
That means people want their own private, place rather than sharing with the host.
Yeah, I think what we can do is that we check this number by year. Also, we can do cross-sectional data. I do believe at the very beginning, people should prefer more about a private room but share with the host, with the landlord. But later on, when Airbnb developed faster, or we say the market becomes much larger, then the preference of guests changed.
Professor,
Yeah.
I have a question. In that case, I'm not sure we do not, because we do not see the whole result of the research, because so I have a little question. In that case, usually when people go to the other countries and sharing or registering the hotel, they expect a certain service like a cleaning or bedding. In that case, the people using the Airbnb, they do not prefer to have those kind of a service, because when they use the entire property, then it is very hard to expect some kind of a service. So the service level is not the important issue for those kind of customers who are looking for the Airbnb.
Yeah, I agree.
Can I say that?
Yeah, I agree. As you said, that no one will do the housekeeping for us and no one will serve food for us when we stay in Airbnb. But I think this is because if we choose Airbnb, we want to have that kind of homey style. So at home, we want to do the housekeeping by ourselves. But it's not all like that. I remember that for some Airbnbs, particularly for the ones it's like the professional management, they have a few listings. They do housekeeping. You can order food. So in that case, yes, entire property, but it's more like a traditional hotel.
Thank you very much.
Okay, then we can go to the last piece. So this is a relatively new study, again related to COVID. By that time, when we experience a lockdown, we all say that during lockdown, all the airlines suspended, and we have to do that. But what we don't know is that how much the airlines suffered. I always say because of the suspension of the flight, then how much cases we get less. I always say if the flight didn't suspend, then how many more cases we will have? Literally, it's the contribution of airlines to the prevention of the COVID. So this is another angle. We want to give some encouragement to the airlines because they sacrifice a lot. And for sure, this paper was very popular. Airlines love this paper because they do use this paper to ask for subsidies from the government. So let's see how much they sacrificed. We get the this is the operation data. We got data from these two airline database, 33 European countries covering 2019, which is pre-COVID, to May 2020. May 2020 is the first wave in the Europe. In May by that time we started to open. And in total again 123 million observations. So the dependent variable is flight frequency. Again, a demand model. Independent variables, including GDP and number of confirmed cases in Central. Again, it's a spillover effect. We know that for the virus, it can spill over to other neighboring countries. Then before we do the econometric model, we do another study, or we did another analysis, which is called regression discontinuity design. I'm not sure if some of you have used it or not. It's basically a counterfactor analysis. So we can using this method, what we can have is that if there is no COVID, no suspension of flights, which we explain this way, we control all other effects, because we know that the number of flights each year fluctuated because of the market, maybe because of the weather. So we excluded all that kind of influencing factors. Then we see how much the flight decreased. And this is number that decreased or is canceled due to COVID. When we have this number, then we can use this one as the dependent variable to regress with other determinants. If we don't do this analysis as the first step, we simply use we simply compare the number of flights of this year and last year. Yes, the number is maybe similar, but still it includes some fluctuation caused by market or even by weather. So anyway, after we do this analysis, we can see that for the total market, the flight decreased from 400 something per day to almost 200. Because by that time, Europe, they just closed border between Europe and other destinations. There are still flights within Europe. That's why it didn't go to zero. But you can see this is the trigger, the first, I think this is the 7th day. On the 7th day, the numbers of flight started to decrease and further decrease here. But this is the bottom. At that time, there are less than 100 flights in Europe per day, which is impossible in the normal period. And if we see the top 5 EU destinations, the decrease is much larger. And for the non-top 5, obviously the rest, the decrease is less, but still a lot. Okay. Then after we get this number, the decrease of flight caused by COVID, we use it as the dependent variable to do the regression model. And what we have is here, we consider spillover effect again. Then 1% increase in the confirmed case of COVID-19 in neighboring countries will result the increase of the confirmed cases in the focal country by 0.64. This is the result based on the suspension of the flight. So in this way, we can do the counterfactor analysis. We can tell the story. If there is no suspension, what will happen? If no suspension, the red line is the real data. The green is the counterfactual data. So this is the daily confirmed case. And we can see the peak is April the 1st. If no suspension, there will be 62,211 more cases on that day. Accumulatedly, if no suspension of the flights, the total confirmed case will increase from here to here. almost tripled. So if we then times this number with the death rate, we can even claim how many lives airlines saved due to the suspension of flights. Although financially they lost a lot of money, but they contribute to the society by saving lives. This is a very beautiful story for airlines to claim money from the government. And indeed, this is what they did. We didn't lie, right? So this is another kind of, we say, when we do research, we need to think about impact. How can we contribute to the industry, to the government, to the market? And as a summary, we say always theory-driven, although big data is ever increasing, but always theory-driven. We always need to know that we should start from the concern, no rubbish in, no rubbish out, and then we would like to generate more impactful findings and studies to contribute to the society and the industry. Okay, I think this is what I want to share today. Any questions?
Okay, wow. Anyu, you great work last
Thank
4
you.
years.
Thank you. Because of the lockdown, so people are more productive.
No. You know, what is surprising is the COVID-19 period since 2020 through the 2022, 2 years or 3 years anyway. That period they applied for every single industry, every single country, every single researchers. But only a few researchers have their own achievement from the phenomenon of COVID-19, like Dr. Anyu Liu. So I'm very pitiful I didn't do much like when you're done. But anyway, that's my jealousy. Not
maybe you can tell that some papers are collaborated with Yuri, and literally we got this idea, some ideas by beer.
Yes, you know.
So
once again, the Dr. Liu, he published the very top tier journal and also tourism research, tourism management using of big data, and even also he influenced big impact to real industry like airplane industry and tourism industry and tourism business, something like that. As far as I know, England, they are pretty much highly interested in real industrial impact rather than theoretical approach. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a very huge chance to learn from him about what the real, research work comparing the theoretical viewpoint. But anyway, so students are you can ask whatever you want to know him. It's your future.
I have a question, Doctor. First of all, thank you for your lecture. I really appreciate that. But my question is like kind of off topic, but you mentioned that the revenue managers in Icon Hotel use AI techniques when they like get the right people and the right price. And I want to know how they get the right people and right price, because in South Korea, even the most leading luxury hotel do not use these techniques, because I don't know, but I think lack of techniques or not. So I want to know about that questions.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And I need to clarify that it's not Hotel Icon does the work in this way. It's Alibaba.
Alibaba, all right.
So they have everything. So it's quite easy for them to identify the right people at right time, right place, and just ask you to pay, and you are very happy to pay.
All right. Then in hotel, Icon Hotel, do you know how they get the price and the optimal things about that?
You mean the revenue for Hotel Icon?
Yeah, like forecasting room demand or like market segmentation or something like that.
I have to say that still in our industry, the revenue management, I would say for revenue managers, when they do the prediction, they still use the very traditional classical method. They basically assume that the history will happen again. So they will use like the room rate last year to represent this year. So very simple. But what different of Icon is that we have 3 rooms we call future guest rooms. So as researchers, we can collaborate with Icon and we can redesign room as whatever we want, just to test the reaction from the market. And also, again, collaboration. So this is another collaboration that Alibaba did with other hotel groups, for example, Marriott. We know that usually it will cost you 10 nights to get a silver, we say in their loyalty program, get a silver level, and maybe 30 or 40 nights for the gold. But when Alibaba collaborates with Marriott, they recommend their high-level guests to Marriott, although this group of guests don't have the experience to stay in Marriott. Then they only ask for 6 nights to upgrade to the silver and 10 nights to the gold. If we think this way, maybe Marriott, they lose the money, because if it's not the guest recommended by Alibaba, it's just a regular guest, they can sell another 30 more nights. But the guests recommended by Alibaba are the high level with the consumption power. So when they stay in the hotel, they consume more. And we can imagine how costly it will be for a hotel group to identify the guests with consumption power. So although they lost the nights they sold to these people, but they also saved a lot of cost to identify these people. So again, identify people. And they do have, I think for the IT companies now, they do have this business. If you collaborate with them, they will just give you all data for free. At least this is how Alibaba does their business.
Right. Thank
Okay.
you.
Good. Other question? You can ask in Korean if you want. He may
And I'll
understand.
try to understand.
I can ask ChatGPT to translate.
Yeah.
Okay. If
I
you
have
don't,
a question.
okay, good, go.
I have a question. In a very start of the lecture, you mentioned that, I think you mentioned that the kind of stakeholders of the TripAdvisor mentioned that they do not want their data to be used in any other purposes. So and also when you discussed about the crawling thing, you mentioned we have to care about the ethical problem. So I am quite confusing. Is that means we cannot use the user comments of TripAdvisor anymore, or
Now the story changed. I think it just started this year. Before this year, ethically, we are not allowed to use any data from TripAdvisor for any purpose. But now TripAdvisor changed the policy. They now offer the API. So we can have the access to get their data in an ethical way.
all right. So I can understand, like, if I make my own code to crawl the comments of TripAdvisor, it may occur some ethical problems. So I have to access the data with some kind of API.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Other question? Okay.
I have a
go.
question. I have a question both of to professors because I'm not in this field. My major is marketing, so it is not really common to read about the big data-based research. But my feeling is when I use the word big data on my research, maybe it will be how to say easier to get the eyes on the papers. So my question is the field, the research field, the big data is a hot issue in any how to say economical researches. That is my first question. And the second is, even though I searched the word term, the meaning of the big data, it is not really clear. So I just guess that the big data mean is the data from the, for example, like the internet based. But you mentioned about the second, the third research, the database data comes from the certain company. So even though that's from the, I'm not the major of the kind of any, how to say, the internet or other technology. So I just say the internet. So if I collect the data from the like very big global company, but not like the based on the internet, like Hyundai or Samsung, can I say that those kind of data is a big data, or only from the internet based on business companies data is a big data? Is it? I'm not sure. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Yes.
Shuma, would you like
That's
to go
my-
ahead?
Yes.
Okay, Anyu, can you
So
define what the big data
let me
is?
kick off before I forgot the questions. So
Okay,
first, for marketing research and big data, as I said, that now in the mainstream marketing paper, you do need to have multiple resource, multiple studies in one paper. And I don't think we should always say, again, we need to start from the concern. You have a certain concern in maybe in the marketing research topic. Then if you need big data or not, if you need it, just use it, keep free to use it. If not, it's not necessary to use it. So still we need to select the method theory data based on our research question. Sometimes, yeah, you can see big data is a very hot word. Maybe if I use big data, it's easy to publish, but it's not. Even I think Tremo also had this experience. When we read some paper from others, oh, I can do the same, I can do an even better paper, but I cannot get published. So again, we always need to keep in mind, start from the theory, theory, method, then data. The second question about, yes, I think from my perspective, personally, I recognize this as big data. It's like the data I used from the airline database. And even though if you have the access, maybe you can get data from with the hospitals or insurance companies, they are all big data. So yes, you are right. There is no clear definition, but just I think 3 dimensions as I mentioned: sample size, frequency, and also then we need a special algorithm. I think the difference is if it is different from the traditional data, then it can be called big data. This is my understanding.
okay, good. She mentioned 2 professors, probably including me. Let me say, the reason I invited the eminent scholar and the ability scholar and from all over the world, I just wanted to show the how research should be difficult, and then I want to expose them to you how you must work hard in your graduate course. Okay, you are now attending in Kyunghee University, and I know very well this level of school. They study and then research, but I don't satisfy it much in our school. The level, like I knew he published the ATR, JTR, and TM. this is a great tough work. You must know it's outside of the Gyeonggi, there is a huge number of the high quality professors and the researchers there. You should learn there. But this is a huge chance to know the people out there, the good researchers. Like last week, Anyu, I invited Dongwon Lee from Hong Kong Technology University. He introduced the econometrics, which is a huge impact in these days. And so I also want to work with him for learning the econometrics. Like in marketing area, in tourism area, is a methodology is getting harder and harder. And then anyway, we want to find out the punctual and exact the meaningful information from our research data. The meaningful data would be used for marketing strategy, for segmentation, for targeting, for positioning, for competitive analysis. So it doesn't matter the marketing, MIS, tourism. There's all about is the exact forecasting, and then prediction, and then prospect for the future. And we have a few different methodologies: a survey, marketing experiment, big data analysis, econometrics, and others. But these days, the current issue is that they combined the methodologies and then try to find out the optimal solution. The using of those 4 different methodologies is getting tough and tough. Yeah. And my question is, like when you said you research and you're submitting to the top tier level journals, I review your papers. I know that. So as a reviewer, I always ask the causality. Like your data-driven research is appeared. There's a fact and the counterfact. So I know the descriptive result from that analysis. But the academic research, I want to hear from you about the causal, origination, why this result caused by. The disadvantage of a big data actually there.
Yeah.
It's hard to get the relationship with the causal and the result.
Yeah, causal reality indeed is very popular in mainstream economics. If I remember correctly, the Nobel Prize was issued to this field in 2021, I believe. So you can see how popular it is. It's recognized by the mainstream, and it's in the emerging stage in our field. I think I can type it into the chat. The popular methods that we are using to do the causality is the RDD I used, and there is another one called DID, and also structure, not SEM, but a structure model with a mathematical foundation. Basically, we get all the equations we want to regress based on mathematics. Then mathematics can be used to prove the causality. And based on this stuff, then you can do the counterfactor analysis. And also, as Chomo said, AI, because AI can do prediction, that means we can use certain AI skills to do the counterfactor analysis, compare with the real number, then it's the causality.
Okay, others?
There is one more propensity score matching.
Junior?
Thank you for your interesting topic and great presentation.
Sorry, I cannot hear clearly.
Speak up.
Thank you for your interesting topic and great presentation. And my question is, about RD and you adopt the RD instead of the DID. And as I know that RD is very similar with DID. So why did you adopt the RD methodology instead of DID? And how can we decide two different methodologies in our research? That's my question.
Well, again, it depends on the topic, the theory, and then we pick up the certain methods. At least if you are familiar with RDD and DID, you will know that the rationale behind is different. So for example, if we want to test some policy impact and the policy or launch it across different regions at the same time, then it's rather easier for us to use RDD rather than DID, because for DID, we also want to capture the difference across time and region. So it really depends on the topic. And let me see. Here, I just got this book. I think some of you may know this book. I'll write it down. It's called very interesting name, Mostly Harmless Econometrics.
Yes. So like a graduate school and then the master degree and the PhD degree, there's a lot to learn from, the researchers and professors. Econometrics, DID, RD
Yeah, so if you are interested in the causality studies, then you can read this book.
Okay.
Easygoing, no harmless, right? So no hard mathematics there.
Okay, we have 2 minutes. Any further questions? Okay, and you're as a professor in Hong Kong, would you say something for our future generation and my students, a PhD and the master degree? And
yeah, I think that I'm also Asian, so I experienced what you are experiencing. And what I want to talk to you is that, indeed, I said this in the seminar, that not only to learn how to write up a paper during your PhD, but learn more on how to communicate with different people. And our industry, tourism and hospitality. So don't stick on your desk 24 hours per day. Go out. When you go to the pub, the bar, the restaurant, that's called hospitality. When you go to theme parks, that's called tourism. You need to experience the real life. Then it can help you to get some, always identify the real problems in the industry. So then your life will be much easier, much healthy, and you can enjoy your PhD.
great. Okay. Anyu, thank you very much today. It's a great, the introduction about the big data, from the core concept and then the meaning and the definition, and you showing the actual research output from your own, research work, how you analyze the big data and achieved meaningful information from the analysis, and then those top tier journals, publications you got is impressive. I'm so surprising how much you has been publishing such a great work in the top tier journals.
So
okay.
So in this sense, I'm not a role model. Don't learn from me. You need to enjoy your life.
You stay there, I catch up.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you for the invitation again, and look forward to see you in person. And for students, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to drop me an email.
Sure. Thank you very much today.
Okay.
It's another surprising, seminars.
Yeah, okay.
I'm thankful to Dr. Anyu Liu, and I look forward to see you again in a conference.
Yeah.
We met in South Africa, and next year Istanbul.
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe next year will be so.
Yeah. Let's see.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Bye.
Happy
Thank you very
TGIF
much.
Fridays. Bye
Yeah.
bye.
Bye bye.